I would love to introduce our speakers today. We have Sebastian, one of our valued members, and how cute is it that he's interviewing his mom?
And it happens to be her birthday, too, so give it up for Clara's birthday. Thank you all for coming here today. We'll make sure that our cameraman says we're recording and we're good to go on that. If you haven't, she told you about the KINN. If you haven't heard about me, I am the host of a podcast called Aware with Seb. So this is a live recording with a live audience of it. So we'd love to have you follow the show later on if you like this conversation. And as Leia said, this is a special episode for me because I get to interview my mom. And she's not on stage just because she's my mom. She's on stage because she's an absolute badass. So again, welcome Clara Naum. So I like to start. Oh, we gave you a mic. There we go.
Thank you.
Clara, I always like to start my episodes and asking my guests, what was your last oh shit moment? First thing that comes to mind.
Okay, the first one that comes to mind is when you invited me. Because actually I was planning on having a chill morning at a hotel in Santa Monica, sleeping in, having breakfast in bed, and then you said last week, Mom, what are you going to do for your birthday? And I said, we're going to go out to dinner and everything. No, in the morning. I said, chilling in, having breakfast. What about being my guest on the podcast? Now? About what? I'm going to handle that. So that was my
Well, thank you for saying yes.
oh shit moment. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm still
that's
learning.
a good oh shit moment.
I'm still learning to say yes and no.
Of course.
That's one of the things.
You couldn't say no to this one.
No.
So I always tell my friends and people that know me that there's my mom and then there's Clara. And today I'm talking to Clara, who's a totally different woman than my mom. And so Clara, you were deep in the corporate world. You led a concept car company to record-breaking quality certifications. Mm-hmm. And these were certifications that people before you weren't able to achieve. You came in and you did it in record time. What do you think was key for you for achieving that?
Thank you for asking that. I think that the key was seeing the people who was in charge of the project, actually. I was the bridge between top executives and people on the floor. As you notice, I have an accent. It happens that I speak Spanish. That's my native language. And people on the floor, most of them spoke Spanish. So they felt heard and seen. And then I was the bridge between, as I said before, the CEOs, top executives, and people actually working on the floor. So we really work as a team. And that was one of the key to the success. The companies have failed 4 times before that. And as you know, my education, I'm a former CPA. So I was working at the company as a CPA and trying to obtain quality certification. So as you said, it was record time and being the first woman.
That's
also.
awesome. So this is a concept car company. This company created the Dodge Viper and the original F-150 and things like that. So they would essentially sell the concepts to OEMs and things like that. So that's an interesting point. You said that you essentially the workers, the floor people were seen for the first time, and you bridged it between the C-levels and the people that were actually working, and that's what the people before you weren't able to do. They weren't able to bridge.
I would say so, that was one of the reasons. And one of the challenges was I was a foreigner. At that point, I was really young, and I was the first woman taking care of that.
So even more
there was only another woman in human resources in the company. So, and not only that, is listening to all the challenges they were going through, and at the same time, taking action so we were able to achieve what we needed to achieve.
Awesome.
So it was just not one thing, it's working at every single layer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what inspired your shift from this corporate world that you were in? You're a CPA, you've been working corporate jobs the majority of your life. What made you shift from that to the world of emotional and spiritual transformation that later on led you into coaching the things that you did today?
Thank you for that question. I think it's the same thing, one way or the other. At that point, I was in charge of quality control, and one way or the other, it was about mastery of emotions. So the quality control and agility of emotions that make us successful one way or the other. And I deeply care for human beings, and I deeply care of supporting them achieving what they think they want sometimes, or what they really, really want. So it was kind of a transition that it wasn't difficult per se, because it's what I always loved.
Yeah.
That was my thing. Psychology, coaching is connecting with people from a different level, at a different level.
At that point, you ended up getting a master's in spiritual psychology, you ended up becoming a Reiki master, and you had all kinds of certifications in sort of the self-development world. And you talk about quality control of emotions. So can you unpack that, and why is quality control of emotions so essential for business leaders?
It's basic, I would say. We all go through stuff in life, and we all get triggered by things internal and external, but everything external reflects something that is going on inside of us. So quality control doesn't mean stuffing your emotions. It's managing your emotions. So your emotions are not going to manage you. So you control how you manage your emotions. So it's extremely important to notice, pause, and choose. And most successful people need to learn that in order to be really successful. It's pausing, noticing, pausing, and then choosing intentional reaction instead of the reaction that most of us experience when we are triggered.
Do you believe that most business leaders are starting to think this way? Do you see a shift happening in people thinking this way in business as a business leader, or do you think this is something that's barely getting scratched on the surface?
I would say when I started you mentioned my master's in spiritual psychology and different kind of masters in coaching and spirituality, and actually emotional intelligence, and this was about over 15 years ago. It was starting, but I would say restarting. It wasn't mainstream in certain areas, but it's really old. It's really, really old. So the thing is, people started to think that this was not something to manage at home with relationships, but yes, in companies. So yes, there's a shift, and we are facing a lot of challenges with those shifts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Clara, you coach high-level executives from companies like Herbalife, Kaiser Permanente, executives at USC. You also have clients that are like mega successful podcasters and actors and musicians, and of course, average, normal, regular human beings. Do multimillionaires and top-notch executives, and then average people that are just looking to get better at life, do they experience the same type of emotional blocks?
That's a great question, Seba, because actually what people experience, as you put it, behind closed doors, is that it's the same thing. Behind closed doors, humanity is not protected by influence or power. Humanity magnifies behind closed doors.
That's really good right there. Did y'all catch that?
Mm-hmm.
That was gold. Can you repeat that?
I'm going to try. Behind closed doors, humanity is not protected by influence and power and success. It actually magnifies.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. So then what would you say is the main difference when you're working with these mega millionaires, highly successful people, and then you're working with more so average people that are looking to get ahead, what is making somebody a high performer? What is allowing them to play in bigger leagues and connect with bigger people and make more money and get more success? What is the difference then with these people?
The difference, and as you said, I have the privilege to work with people from all walks of life, including people in maximum security prisons. So that's one of the things that I do, service to the community, to humanity, right? So what I find is that deep desire to do the work, the real work, because it looks like whatever is happening outside is the real work. But power and success without the inner work doesn't last. So what I see is a deep commitment, self-discipline, but probably not this kind of self-discipline that we all talk about, is the courage to face your shadow, the courage to face your humanity, as I said before, the courage to face your fears, self-doubts, to work on that and to do things regardless.
So are you saying that some of these top-notch high performers, they're more willing to do the work than other people that you work with? Do you think
Some of them.
Okay. So then what do you think is causing more of their success? Like, is there some luck aspect there? You mentioned self-discipline. Is there a self-discipline thing that you see some of these high performers have more of than other people that you work with that simply maybe want to do some emotional work, but the high performance aspect isn't quite there?
I wouldn't say that they have more of that, because I have seen that deep desire with people inside maximum security prisons, right? So it's a journey that is not the corporate ladder per se that they have to climb. Is the inner work. That's the real work, and it's soul's evolution, and it's learning to really learn to let go, learn to forgive yourself and others, and have the courage to have a vision and really go for it. And it's that discipline that says, okay, today I didn't show up the way I would have liked, but you're not stuck into that. You learn, you take responsibility, and move on. And that's what I see. And they keep showing up. They keep showing up. So this kind of work is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
So what people see on the outside is one thing, but that image behind closed doors could be a mask.
Yeah. Yeah. So the keep showing up part is important. I think that a lot of times from the outside things seem one way, and we look at success and we look at successful people and we don't realize or we don't notice how much they're actually constantly showing up and how much rejection they're going through until they're finally getting those breakthroughs.
And fear of judgment.
Fear of judgment, yeah.
We all have fear of judgment, some people more, some people less. But when you are on a stage, when people are looking at you in a different way because the success you have achieved, the titles you have, if you're an actress, a performer, people are looking at you. So are you gonna be courageous enough to let go of those judgments and keep showing up? So the question behind doors is not what's next for you that I ask, what matters?
So I had a lot of fear of judgment growing up, to be honest. Who has fear of judgment? All right. We got a lot of honest people out here today. I appreciate that. And I still battle with it today, but a lot less. Luckily, for me, what did it, a lot of that was just volume of things that I'm trying, content that I'm putting out, and just putting myself out there more and more. Then it becomes a thing of like, well, if I'm putting myself out there more and more, I kind of care less and less about the judgment, right? So for me, it's been a bit of a repetition thing. You just what do you think is key to let go of that fear of judgment? I think you kind of just said it, but maybe you can build on it of like figuring out what actually matters, and that can help you let go of the fear of judgment. How do you work on that?
For me, judgment, the way to overcome judgment is through one of the biggest tools that I know, and is forgiveness. Most people think, not lately sometimes, but most people think that forgiveness is to forgive others. But forgiveness is letting go of the judgments and the charges against ourselves and others. And that doesn't mean that it was right or wrong. It's just letting go of those charges. And since we are the one putting the charges, we are the only ones who can let them go. So reality is, you mentioned fear of judgment, and most people raise their hands. Fear of judgment is general. Some people say, I'm feared to be judged. Judged about what? So ask yourself about that. Am I afraid that I'm going to be judged because I'm not perfect enough? Because I don't look the way that I want to look? Am I afraid because I'm going to be judged because I should be different, or I shouldn't be speaking this way, or I should be more successful? Everyone has different flavors. It's like going to an ice cream store and there are different flavors. So each of us pick a flavor. So you can pick a flavor right now. What's your flavor of judgment? So probably it's not going to be the same one for everyone. So really being clear on what your fear is going to allow you to really sit with that, process that. You can do it yourself or with someone else that is supporting you. And then when you are able to see what are you judging about that, because you're afraid of the judgment of others, but reality is you're judging yourself because of the judgment of others or because of that fear. So you can release that judgment, and then you can take action. You can post more, you can do more things, you can show up, maybe it's not in your best outfit, or talking with someone, different kind of things. But it's facing that fear, but knowing what is the real fear, what is the risk, what is the benefit that I experience when I decide to play small because of that fear of judgment. That is what matters.
Can you repeat that last part right there?
Sebastian.
That was good. It just hit, you know?
I'm going to try again.
Well, because I find
Yes.
that most of my my fear of judgment is I'm mostly judging myself, right? So it's like the whole should thing that you said. One day, a while back, there's this viral video from forever ago on YouTube called The Mountain of Should. I recommend you check it out if you haven't seen it. The Mountain of Should. And it's just like all of these should, like where you should be doing, where you should be at, how I should be showing up, and things like that. So I liked what you brought in, forgiveness, and you have a book on that. Well, I was going to talk about it later, so we could talk about it a little bit right now. So you have a book called The Real Meaning of the F Word.
Yes.
Forgiveness as a Path to Freedom. And it's an excellent book. I highly recommend you all check it out. It's probably on one of those links in there. You can get it.
Have you read it?
I have read it. I have read it. And so when you talk about forgiveness, you brought about forgiveness and you connected it to the fear of judgment. So if I have a fear of judgment and I'm judging myself, I'm really afraid of how others may be judging me, and then how I'm judging myself for how others are judging me potentially.
Exactly.
So it's
That's
how
what I
I'm
said.
judging myself. It's not necessarily what others are judging of, right? So then how can you please, what I was saying to repeat is,
Yes.
how does forgiveness come into play to help me stop judging myself?
Okay. What you said, you were really listening because you repeated actually exactly what I said.
I've been around you for a minute.
So the thing is, just imagine you're afraid of the fear of judgment. You didn't say afraid, but fear of judgment of others. So you're thinking of the judgment of others. Reality is you're judging yourself without knowing or not knowing, because of certain things. So the judgment of others that can occur or not are really triggering something inside of you that is a wound. So that wound comes to the surface, and you experience that pain that instead of breaking free of that, when I say you, it's not you, I'm in general, people tend to play small because they want to hide. They want to protect themselves. And that's the reason when I said what happens behind closed doors is that fear that you're experiencing outside, influence, power, success, behind closed doors doesn't protect you because your humanness is alive, the rawness of who you really are. Then when you face that rawness of who you are, then all the judgments come to the surface. And the judgments are, for instance, all the shoots that you mentioned. That's a good way to find the judgments.
Yeah.
And the things that you are afraid of. And you asked me before, I'm going to relay this. This is a reason famous people or people with fame or actresses or performers that I had the privilege to work on in the past and right now, they experience the same thing. But they don't decide to hide because of that. And if they work through that, they experience real success, authentic success, leadership that comes from being authentic and doing the work. So it's being willing to face those judgments. Probably is I haven't done enough. I should have a financial freedom that I don't. I should have more success. People are not looking at me the way I want to be looked. I don't have good relationships, different kind of things. People go through different kind of things. As I said before, this work is not for the faint of heart. But hopefully, we go inside to experience healing for the last time.
Excuse me, when we play small and it's related to some form of hiding, because we're afraid of being seen or even afraid of success, right? Sometimes I have a tough time thinking about this whole concept of being afraid to actually get the things that you want, or being afraid to succeed, or being afraid to play big. How is that even a thing? Why are people really afraid to potentially succeed, and how can I figure that out if that's what's actually happened to me or not?
And that's a great question. The thing is, people say, sometimes I ask them, are you afraid of really getting what you want, and different kind of things?
And that, if you ask me, I'd be kind of annoyed by that. What do you mean I'm afraid? I'm
That's
telling
the
you I
reason
want
I'm
it.
ask you. So the fear is of really not getting what you said that you want to get. The really is that, am I going to be able to have it and sustain it? What is going to happen if I don't have it? What is going to happen if people think that I'm really not that good? How am I going to face myself? So one way, unconscious way, to protect ourselves is by creating different scenarios so we don't have what we say we want to have. And that could happen with relationships, that could happen with different kind of works, different levels of success.
Can you give an example of that? Of something that if someone wants something and then they subconsciously create an environment to not get it, and that's somehow a protection.
I was working, several examples. But I want to choose the one. I was working with a well-known actress a couple of years ago, until last year, and she was writing her memoir. And actually she's very disciplined, very successful. She really is able to focus on what she wants, and she gets that. She hasn't that much inner work, though. So for her, being able to feel vulnerable was extremely difficult. So that was her fear. And she had a big, big deal on a book. Most of the book was her memoir. We were working on that. We started working, but not on the memoir, right? So one of the problems that she was experiencing was that, okay, I have to do this, I don't get to do this, I never finish. The publishers didn't like what she was writing, and she was judging herself because she's very accomplished, very accomplished.
So she already had the book deal.
Yes.
So you already have the book deal.
And
So
she kept asking for extensions. So she sent one chapter, the other chapter, and the answer was,
yeah.
right? And she couldn't understand that she's on a stage, lots of films, doing great, being successful, making a lot of money, and she couldn't get to write what she wanted to write. She was playing small. Why? Because she was afraid of really removing the mask behind closed doors that is not gonna be behind closed doors later on, with everyone was gonna be able to read the book and really be real. So in order to do that, she needed to work on different things and open up. So the light was going to be able to come in through her, and being vulnerable and being willing to the rawness and to everything that she had experienced in her life and how those things shaped who she was and the failures she had. So one way or the other, she was hiding behind the cover. But once she was able to really work through that and be willing to play big on that, and that everything that she had experienced didn't define who she was in the past, then she really broke free from that and was able to not only publish the memoir, but she's been on a tour with that book and become a New York Times bestseller.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So I'm sure you've had all kinds of transformative moments with your clients and these people, whether they're high-powered executives or actors or musicians or podcasters or whatever. Was there a transformative moment with a client that changed the way that you see your own work? When you experience something with somebody that you're working with and you're like, oh shit, like I actually see what I do differently now than I did before.
I wake every day and I try to see the beauty of every day and the work I do. And the thing is, for me, is I meet someone and I don't see their titles, their successes. I connect with the essence. So if we are the right fit, we dance together and we create different things together. So that's magic. So I keep seeing different things. But I would like to mention something that I really learned about myself and my own fears. And this was with someone inside one of the maximum security prisons here in California.
Just to touch on that
Yes.
real quick, if you can give a little intro on what that work actually is.
Yes, I'm part of a nonprofit that I started when I was going to the University of Santa Monica getting my master's in spiritual psychology, and that was about 15 years ago. And I saw a film of people going inside prisons, and something touched very deeply inside of me. And I said, really? Going inside maximum security prisons? Not religion, not counseling. It's just being there and giving the same tools that me and the corporate world I was offering and giving to top executives, but just going and giving and being vulnerable with these people inside without the expectation who was going to benefit or not, but with the only intention of being of service. And for me, one of the most powerful things is sitting in front of someone without any judgment. And I experienced that again and again and again, inside the prison, outside the prison.
So you're
doesn't matter.
So you're sitting in these
Yes.
prisons with people that have committed the gnarliest crimes. You can imagine.
All kind of things,
So
and
sitting
people
with,
who are innocent too.
mm,
I have found all kind of people, yes,
Yeah.
and we sit close to each other because we do this kind of work, and we open ourselves up so they can open themselves up, and it's it's the same kind of curriculum with, for instance, USC, Kaiser Permanente, Martin Luther King, that I train top executives with.
So you're doing the same format with them?
Not the format,
Oh.
the same curriculum.
Got it. The same
So,
curriculum. So
but
these
different
prisoners
ways.
are going through the same curriculum that some of these top-notch leadership groups are.
Exactly, with the training in different hospitals, emotional intelligence, certain kind of things. The process that we do are very deep. So, and they have changed through the years. But going back to the question you asked, is one day I was walking inside the prison, men's prison, the one that you and your father said that I needed to wait until go in there, because I was going to women's prison, and this was a pilot, so only the veterans were going to be able to go, and I had this call inside of me that I wanted to go. If there's something that I can do to serve these people, I want to do it, because I'm not there to judge. I'm there to serve, to help. And if they're gonna come back to society, what are they gonna bring? So no expectations, right? High involvement, no expectations. And I was walking third time during that year, and that was a year, and I think I wrote in my book, this year I spent 30 years in prison, right? Because all the times that I've been going there. And this was about over 10 years ago. And one of the inmates that he said, thanks to you, I now have a name, because he was so ashamed, and he's been in prison for over 20 years at that point. And he was released. He finished his time. He completed everything that he needed to complete. But he said, I was in the process of writing my book, and it was inside of the closet. It was inside of the closet for a few years. Anyways, and he said, have you published your book, Clarita? He spoke Spanish, so I work in Spanish and in English with the inmates. And I said, no, not yet. I said, do you know that if you write and you have been written that book because you told us that, but if you publish that book, maybe someone is going to receive what we are receiving here since you've been coming. So why?
Yeah, let's give her a hand for that.
Thank you.
Thank
you. So he said, why are you preventing others from the water that we are receiving? Are you afraid of that? So I was there inside of a maximum security prison, being coached by an inmate who's been inside the cage, as he said, for over 20 years.
Wow.
And he said, because of what I have learned, now I train others, people who come here, so they can learn to manage their emotions. They can have emotions. I have learned to cry, he said, but now my emotions are not controlling myself. And he painted beautiful painting that he gifted afterwards. So that was extremely powerful, touched my heart so profoundly. So on my way back home, that I had to drive over 7 hours to come back home every single time that I go to that prison, I kept thinking, what am I afraid of? What is my should? Why am I playing small? What is my own judgment against my book, myself, my work? What is my own fear? So
what an experience.
Yes,
That's an incredible experience. Thanks for sharing that, Clara.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions, and then what I'll do is I'll open it up to the audience to ask a couple of questions, and we'll go from there. So really, business and spirituality in general aren't really mentioned in the same sentence. Perhaps here more at the KINN, people really consider that a lot more. But how do you help skeptical leaders to merge spirituality and business to be even better business leaders?
That's a great question. And actually, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I don't remember, I was invited to give a talk about leadership at a university, and there was about 1,500 people or so. And I said, what do you want to talk about? And it says consciousness and leadership. Mm-hmm. And I talk about forgiveness. And they said, this is business. I said, so tell me, what happens when you fail? What happens when you have to lead people and sometimes you don't tolerate them and you get so triggered because whatever they are doing, are you being compassionate? Are you being clear? Are you bringing your heart? Are you being able to say yes when you have to say yes and no when you have to say no?
Yeah.
Are you using forgiveness to lead better? Yeah. I said, forgiveness in the workplace? Of course. Why? Because you're releasing toxic energy and you can reallocate your energy to create what you really want to create. So tell me, what is that you want to do? Do you want to keep the garbage inside your company, your office, your heart? Or you want to take responsibility? Of course, forgiveness and self-forgiveness without responsibility doesn't work. And release that and claim back your energy, your power. So whatever happened, the grudges and everything, don't hold power. You reclaim the power. You reclaim the energy. And then you create intentionally. So if that's spirituality, leadership is based on spirituality. So is compassion, real compassion, empathy, being with yourself and others. So you can create what you want to create and bring the best of you to whatever you're doing in your life, your relationships, your work, the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Clara. Well, you're doing some amazing work, and I admire you every day for all the work that you do and the change that you bring to the world. And I think it's amazing that you're helping impact people that have a lot of impact, because when you're impacting those individuals and they have a lot of impact and a lot of reach, you're bringing change that's being scaled. And I always love to talk about sort of like scaling impact. That's why I'm so passionate about like conscious businesses and because business can actually scale, and so when you have a conscious business or conscious leadership, you're scaling that positive impact in the world. So I love that you're doing that through individuals and organizations and things like that. So
I love what you said, because it's exactly that. Because the thing is, I love my passion, my mission, my vision, because it's all related one way or the other, is I love what I do. I love to see the best in people and help them bring that to the surface and release whatever is hiding the best version of themselves. So in time, they can bring whatever they're doing, the best. And that is in business, anything in life, right? Relationships, your life, your dreams. So I love to impact people who in their time, they're going to impact others. Yeah. So we create a ripple effect of love.
Love that. Clara, so in just 2 words, you've mentioned a lot of different qualities for humans that you think should have, and leaders and CEOs and things like that. But what are 2 traits that are necessary for a conscious leader to lead with both power and heart? Just 2 traits.
Deep compassion, and willingness to see inside.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And
Thank you. Thank
I'd
you.
love to open it up. We'll just do 2 questions on in the microphone, and then y'all can connect with Clara. You guys can scan the QR codes up here, connect with her directly. Would love to have you follow the podcast, and you can learn more about the KINN here. There's several people that work here, and we'd love to have you be a part of this community. We got Drew in the back row. I feel like Drew's been here before and asked some questions. Oh no, he's coming to the front.
I like to get really close.
Snooze, you lose.
Yeah. So, Clara, you mentioned you were on your drive home, and you were thinking in your mind from that prison, what were you afraid of? I don't know if you mentioned it, but what did you uncover that you were afraid of to publish your book?
Okay, so you
I'll
want
put
to
you on
go,
the spot.
Thank you, Drew. So you want to go behind closed doors, right? No, of course. One of the things, I actually discovered several things. One of the things was that it was not going to be enough to touch people's lives. That was one of the things. And because the other thing is because in my book, it's not just theories about forgiveness, it's about different stories and examples of people who have gone through extreme circumstances, through abuse, Holocaust survivor, betrayals, all kind of things, and people I work with. Of course, I changed the names, and I developed a method on how you can learn to forgive. So I did that, but I thought that wasn't enough. So I needed to include myself and my own stories. So it got really personal. And reality is that my mom is not here with us any longer, but at some point my mother said, Clarita, in Spanish, but I'm gonna say it in English, are you gonna write about that? And I said, yes. And she didn't like it. So am I betraying my mother because I'm writing about these type of things? And the thing is, we need to be courageous enough to be vulnerable if we want to offer others the possibility of being vulnerable themselves. And what I wanted is this to be a tool for healing. So that was a fear that it was more than not enough to heal others, because people are going to receive things the way they're going to receive them. Some people are going to, it's very controversial. It was controversial. When I published it, it was a very controversial book because of the way I talk about forgiveness, especially the self-forgiveness thing. Please remember that forgiveness doesn't mean condoning it, and it means taking responsibility and creating different actions and saying no when you have to say no, right? So it's a very powerful concept at every single level. And the fear was, what if I'm hurting my mother because I'm being vulnerable enough to use my own stories? And after I was able to overcome that, I published the book.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Clara.
Yeah.
Deep answer, deep question, deep answer. We'll do one more. Tay up here.
Thank you, Joe, for asking that.
Taylor.
Hi, Clara. It's lovely to see you again.
Thank you, Taylor.
So I've been hearing the kind of loophole of doing the inner work, and
Yes.
I am extremely self-reflective, but I can understand looking at your shadows and looking at different aspects of yourself that do need that work. Is there a strategy that's kind of like a go-to method that you recommend that can help kind of deepen your inner work? Because I've been hearing this so much, and I'm just, so curious how you recommend people to dive into that.
That's a great question, Taylor, because the thing is, we listen to inner work so much that we listen, we read. Are we experiencing that? It's not one more thing to do. It's something to go deep into that. And the reflection is great. As I said before, is in a sense is notice, pause, and choose. In a nutshell. So instead of acting because of the reactions, we do intentional creation and creation of what's experience that we want to experience at that moment. So everything is great when things are great. When things get difficult, internally or externally, is when we need that the most. And I would say that with everything that we're experiencing in this world is when we need this the most. And what are we gonna bring to the world if we want to create more peace, right? So the inner work is that willingness to sit inside and reflect, as you said, what I just mentioned, and to be in silence, because leadership without a spirit is empty.
Thank you, Clara. You could probably ask more about your specific loopholes after this is done, because I'm sure you have some specifics in there. Well, thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much, Clara. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Keep being you, and thanks all for coming.
Thank you.